Hello and welcome to another episode of the new Frontline podcast. I'm your host, Siena Rose, and today we are doing another reaction video to another video of Labor on the Lines, which is an Instagram channel that does lots of pro-union content. Not only is this another Labor on the Line video, but in this video, they got the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, Stacy Davis Gates, which is the most notorious union among unions, especially in Chicago. If you know anything about it, it's terrible. But they got Stacy Davis Gates to go on record and say some of the most outrageous things I think I've ever heard. No more intro is needed other than that, really. I think we can just dive in. It's a good deal shorter than the other Labor on the Line video. If you haven't seen that, I encourage you to go watch it after this one. The things they say are pretty outrageous, no matter who is saying that. But Stacy Davis Gates is a real treat. The full video will be linked in the YouTube description, as always, if you desire to watch the whole thing. But we're going to dive right in.
Who is the Freedom Foundation? They're the grandsons of the Confederacy. People who want to roll back civil rights, people who create policies to marginalize opportunities for women.
So, something that my dad will always tell me when I start to spin in circles sometimes when people say outrageous stuff about trying to understand how they get from point A to point B. And my dad will tell me all the time that it's truly futile to try and make sense of utter nonsense. I will never be able to put myself in someone else's shoes and understand how they get there because I simply won't understand. And that's how I feel about this and the things that Stacy is saying. She clearly harbors some very deep-set feelings about Freedom Foundation and the things that she believes we do. And she chooses to introduce her points with the statement that we are the grandsons of the Confederacy. And we don't really know the order of her statements on these things. I think we can take this with a grain of salt because I don't know how Labor on the Line chose to edit this video. There's a lot we don't know. And with that said, even Labor on the Line, this is how they chose to start this, is saying that we are the grandsons of the Confederacy. That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Saying something like that to someone who perhaps has no idea what Freedom Foundation does, or at the very least knows very, very little about what we do, that would lead someone to believe that we're like racist or Confederates or some other number of unsavory things. And then as she goes on to say in a minute in the next clip I'll show you is that she makes a statement that we want everyone to return to plantations and that we want the working class to suffer. What? To be frank, Freedom Foundation is not a racist organization. I can't believe I even have to say that. Also, we don't want the working class to suffer. We want them to succeed. That's kind of the whole mission. We're here to try and assist the working class in making their own choices and particularly in opting out. Something that is frustrating is that people like this, union leaders and other sympathizers, as I kind of call them, is that they refuse to concede even the basic points of understanding, of kind of logic. And something that I feel like Stacy, she needs to concede is that the requirements and modes of success for every individual worker in America is different. Yes, some of them might share a similar job or similar stakes, but what we all need to succeed varies individual to individual because we are all different people. Approaching how to help the working class is not a one-size-fits-all scenario, but and that's how unions seem to treat it. Just because we believe that there's in no way a union can serve the individual needs of every single public worker in America, just because we believe that, and then an individual worker's right to choose, does not make us racist or Confederates. How unbelievably absurd. I can't believe this woman is the president of anything, to be honest. Crazy.
The Freedom Foundation every single year sends members throughout this country, here in Chicago the same, letters telling them to disaffiliate from their power, and telling members that they could get more for nothing.
So then she goes on to say this bit more about what Freedom Foundation does and the letters and the communications we put out. That last bit that she says about disaffiliating from their power is a really manipulative way to put it. And she knows it too. She knows better than this. Whether or not she was actually a teacher or an educator for any period of time, she knows better than this. We, Freedom Foundation, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I feel like I'll be saying this till the day I die. And yet, somehow it's still not clear, but we inform public workers of the ability to opt out of union membership in case The workers may have felt pressure to join the union in case maybe they agreed with their union initially and now they don't like what their union is doing anymore. In case they don't feel cared for by their union, or literally any number of reasons as to why they might want to opt out. Stacy's words here make it seem like the only way to have power is by being in the union, when you never needed to do anything to have power. You have your own power. You have your voice. That's the beauty of being an individual in America. We have free enterprise. You have power and ability in your own voice. You never needed to do anything to have your power, much less join a freaking union. I take such issue with the way union leaders like her are so intentional about this message, as if their way is the only way. How disingenuous is that? I'm going to skip ahead to the next clip. It's about 30 seconds. There's a part where she talks about our donors and tries to go after them and say also some ridiculous things that she's also said about Freedom Foundation. It's a whole bunch of hearsay. It's not worth giving any screen time to. Again, if you want to watch the whole thing, link is in the description below, but I'm going to skip ahead because it's just not worth including any of that.
They are saying that they want us to be without voting rights. They want us to be without public schools. They want us to be without access to abortion. They want to confine people with mental health care needs into asylums. They want to rid this society of any responsibility of common good, of empathy for mankind.
Here in this clip, she makes an incredible and alarming number of claims. My gosh, it's truly mind-boggling to me. Like, I'm really struggling. There's nothing here to really debunk, because the claims she's making are obviously very subjective, and it's insane to me that she clearly, truly believes everything she is saying, that this is what she fully believes we stand for. And I don't understand how she got there. Yeah, that in and of itself is the craziest part, that she believes the thing she's saying and that she doesn't have any evidence or volunteer any of the evidence to support what she's trying to say. I mean, Stacy, babe, come on. What we want is for the government to be transparent in its ongoings. Particularly, we focus on the financials and the influence of government unions, and then we want accountability and measures to be in place to hold wrongdoers accountable. Because we live in an imperfect world. Wrongdoers and corrupt people will always want to do wrongs, and so we have to have measures in place to have accountability. Knowing that, and the fact that we want to help public workers and give them the information they need to make their own choices, how do you hear that and believe that we want anyone to be without voting rights? How do you hear that and take it to mean that we don't want public schools, or that we don't want people with mental health needs to be cared for? How do you get from this point to that? I really don't understand it. At the very least, I know that if I make a wild claim about a union or something a union is doing, I pull up the article that reported on it. I supply links to all the research that I do. I put out everything that I pull for research when I do these episodes, because if I'm going to say something as a fact, I better make darn sure that it's true. Stacy is saying this stuff with her whole chest and then isn't supplying anything. She goes, okay, I just said it, and then leaves it out into the ether in hopes that no one will question her on it. How irresponsible is that? I don't know if she's a teacher or not, but it is so irresponsible, even if you are an educator or not, to say this sort of stuff and to know that your words have influence and to not even bother supporting it. It's so icky. And that's kind of how Labor on the Line operates in general, is that any of their videos that they do, they add like a caption that's inflammatory, that all of their videos are kind of working to stir up conflict and stir up emotions in the people who watch it. And then they just don't supply anything of substance after it. And it's really icky to me. It feels like really disingenuous, dishonest, bad faith journalism. And then they pull in people like Stacy to try and like get a bigger name on their profile to get more views. And they don't. Where's the research, girl? Like, show me the facts. Show me the articles. If you really believe it, say it with your chest, and then pull up the facts too. Goodness.
These are people who are working very hard to both remake government and remake America in its worst form. And that doesn't work. We've seen it over and over again.
Yeah, and then she says that, making these bold as brass claims about her very singular opinion on what FF does, but she states it as fact. I feel like logically, if she even qualified her statements as, in my opinion, I believe X, Y, and Z about Freedom Foundation, whatever. But she doesn't say that, or Labor on the Line doesn't include it. She's so flippant and reckless and irrespective of the things that she says that she believes that they're categorically true. And maybe it's some weird sense of inflated ego. Actually, that's probably what it is she has a huge ego about this because she's been president and her name is in nationwide articles and stuff like that. Of course, power would go to someone's head. That's also another issue. Actually, we talked about that in a recent episode too, is that unions have this uncanny ability to possess unbridled power, and it corrupts. Like what's happening right here. And then to take it one step further is that some teachers will see this. People will see this. Stacey Davis Gates seeing this crazy stuff and be like, yeah, that's my girl. Let's go, Stacey Davis. What? I don't know. I don't understand. I feel like I'm living in my own episode of The Twilight Zone sometimes. Moving ahead again, I'm going to skip another few seconds. She kind of talks about our nation's history, what the public has stood for or hasn't stood for, whatever, in the public good. And then she says this.
We understand that when you fund the public good, when you expand the public good, that America wins.
So the public good, she says the public good, and when she says that, she heavily infers that her union is the public good. And I have 2 points of rebuttal to this. I wrote them down so that I wouldn't forget what I wanted to say. So I'll be a little more concise since I'm going to be reading from something. But the first point is that her union, CTU in particular, looking at her union, it's not by any definition a public good. If we try and make a base definition of what a public good might be, it would be something that creates a net benefit or a net positive for a large group of people that qualifies as the general public of an area. I don't really know. It's a very loose definition, but the key part is that it would be a net positive, net benefit. And her union is a group of public workers who are very important. But it takes their money of the public workers and chooses to fund issues that do not create a net positive or a net benefit for a widespread public area or group of public people. Her union is incredibly powerful and politicized. Let's look at Chicago school board elections in particular. A public good in that arena would be letting the people of Chicago elect whomever and not interfere with how elections happen, which means not verbally promoting or financially backing anything that happens to do with the union. However, last year in 2024, Chicago Teachers Union spent $7 million bankrolling their local school board elections because CTU wants to control the narrative. They want to have their hand on the throat of the city and how it's run because they neither believe that the public can make their own choices, otherwise they wouldn't have the need to interfere. They also don't believe that anyone's children actually belong to them, lest we forget that insane quote she said about, Chicago Teachers Union believes that your students belong to them. And that's a fact. Stacy, I don't know if you know this, but that's called saying it with my chest and pulling up receipts and articles to support it. Second point that I have to make is that if I concede and play devil's advocate for a moment here and let CTU claim the title of a public good, just for this example, of course I don't believe that, but her union, despite being incredibly well funded, is failing the system. The Chicago public school system is one of the most well-funded ever, and is yet one of the absolute worst school districts in the entire country. There's a Wire Points article I found from earlier this year that details Chicago's finances and some other information. And right now it showed that on a poll, only 1 in 5 students are proficient in reading and math for Black students, and only 1 in 10. And student proficiencies in general have fallen about 22% since 2017. And you know who this article cites as a major political power and influence on all of this? None other than the Chicago Teachers Union, who basically has the mayor in their back pocket. Stacy, by your own logic, if your union is a public good and the money being spent and more money is being spent funding it to support Chicago, then Chicago, the entire school system and its students should be thriving. But it's not. And whose fault is that? Explain to me, please, how you want me to believe that funding your union is helping anyone win, because the facts literally tell us otherwise. Next clip. Goodness.
We can either see this as a moment of despair, the worst dystopian movie of America ever made,
oh my gosh,
or we can also see this as an opportunity to remake America.
It's like Stacy can't see beyond the end of her own nose, because the way she's running things, it is dystopian. What her union believes, it is dystopian. I think of those teen movies we used to watch where it's a group of people in like a city who are being told what to do and are being ruled by this singular governing authority who of course is corrupt, and they can't do anything, and they can't say what they want to say, and they can't live their own life. It is dystopian, and that's what you believe. Another word for this is communism, babe. I don't know if you forgot that, but I'd love to remind you.
So you can see this as a problem, or you can see this as an opportunity. If you're an organizer, it's an opportunity.
Yeah, and then she ends it with this weird like call to arms. I don't even know what she's trying to say. I'm in distress. This is so unbelievable to watch, this whole reel. I'm not in distress. Don't get me wrong. It's not because of anything Stacy has said that's gotten to me, but it's more because of the fact that I need to believe, give her some like benefit of the doubt that she has to know better. And she is still knowingly choosing to be so irresponsible with her words. And people at Labor on the Line are choosing to edit it in this certain way that is so bad faith and a terrible representation of what we do. You're not making any argument to attack us. You're saying these super subjective, random points as if it's truth. Yeah, and I've said that in regards to other reaction videos too, but the attacks people try and make against Freedom Foundation, the arguments are so empty, are so bad faith, are such a poor representation. It's like they haven't even done any research. And if they have, they jump to these insane conclusions just as the dozen that Stacy laid out. If you take 15 minutes to try and substantiate these claims or research them, you can tell that it's not true. Unlike these unions, Freedom Foundation doesn't comment on random social justice nonsense. We stay the course. We are focused on our mission, which is why we're so effective. But I feel like that's something that unions have never figured out what to do, is to stay the course, stay focused. And they make everything in the kitchen sink their problem or something worth commenting about. I'm truly flabbergasted that Stacy thinks that saying these things and trying to put all these words in Freedom Foundation's mouth suddenly would make any of them true. Just because you say something crazy and you believe it doesn't make it true. Oh, I'm concerned that a woman like this, a person like this, is leading masses. Critical thinking in this country is woof, I guess, at an all-time low if people are hearing what Stacy Davis States has to say and then believing it without doing the diligence of doing any of their own research. Like, just don't take stuff like this for a word. Do your own research. Pull up the receipts. Read the articles they're referencing. Anyway, I'm going to get off that soapbox. If you enjoyed this video, we have a few other like reaction debunking videos that we've done. If you have any other strange videos that you've seen of crazy things that unions say or in reference to Freedom Foundation, please send them our way. You can comment on any of our social media. We'll see it, or email tnf@freedomfoundation.com. That's our email that we have available to take tips. Please consider liking this video and sharing, and particularly if you know anyone in the Chicago area that knows of Stacy Davis Gates or the Chicago Teachers Union, send them this video. Show them that this is what the union thinks is an okay and valid thing to put out. Let them know also that they have options for representation and for their own freedoms and to take back their paycheck aside from these insane, overreaching government unions. Thanks for joining me here at the Frontline, and I will see you next time.